Hey guys, welcome back to the Soulrocker podcast. In today's episode, I have Janitzza Cazares, who is a fellow Mexican Latina mentor, and she's helping women through generational healing and just really doing a lot of great work with trying to, help other women who also have gone through a lot, especially within our own culture. I think that it's really important. That's what she's inspired me, and why I wanted to bring her on here, because I feel like she is, helping so many women who have gone through similar things, especially within, like I said, within the culture. I think that's alone it's a lot. And I really appreciate her for what she's providing to other women and, bringing awareness, having someone that can talk to about these kinds of things. It's just not easy to find. And so I really, again, appreciate that she's doing this kind of work and making it more mainstream. Yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Hi, Janitzza. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. How are you doing?
Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for having me. I am doing well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to start off saying that I had the pleasure to read your astrology natal chart.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Of which I got to know a little bit about you beyond social media. So I want to say thank you again for that. So, okay, so you have a Planting Seeds mentorship program, which you mentor others with understanding childhood trauma, building confidence, setting boundaries, and then ego work, right?
Yeah.
And mentoring, coaching, all typically, to me, it's born through one discovering and being, on a journey themselves, that usually was created, from childhood. So the experience that we go through are catalysts towards our purpose. Can you take me back through your childhood as much as, you're comfortable with, as to what sort of experiences did you go through that shaped you and essentially now play a role at, to helping others?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I guess for me, it's always been very natural, and I never really had the time to reflect on that or think about that as much. But I did grow up in a single family home with my mom. My dad actually passed away when I was around 2, 3 years old. So I always saw just my mom working and taking care of my sister and I. She was very independent, and I always thought that was just the normal thing. I never questioned it until something that really traumatic happened to me, where I was removed from my mom at the age of around 10, 11 years old. And I remember going through that experience and being a child, obviously, because 10 is still very young.
Yeah.
And I remember just always thinking about, yeah, this is bad and this sucks, but there is still hope and there is still light at the end of this journey. And I think naturally, like I said, I've always seen the more positive perspective in life, and that experience shaped who I am today. And I'm so grateful for it, even though it was the hardest thing that I had to go through within my family. After being in foster care and being removed from my mom and my siblings, I moved in with my tia and my tío, which are my second parents. And in that journey, or in that process of being there, I did really well in school. I love school. I think for me, that was the only way I could control my life, I guess you could say. So that was my outlet. I had to be, in leadership. And maybe it was a coping mechanism, who knows? But I really enjoyed the concept of school and learning. While I was there, I did my best in academics, and I actually went to San Diego State right after high school. I think I was 17 when I graduated. And I initially wanted to be an attorney. I wanted to help people in the legal world. And I think it's just because of, seeing my mom in prison, seeing some of my uncles in prison. I always felt like there wasn't representation of people like me in the system. And I was very interested in the criminal justice system and how broken it was. So that was my first route with my career. And I went through schooling 4 or 5 years, and then I graduated, and then I realized all the work that it takes to be an attorney, and then all of the stress. And I'm very sentimental, like soy bien chillona, I cry about everything. So I just kept picturing myself up in front of like the court, and then just picturing me crying. So I was like, yeah, maybe this isn't like the best fit for me. And internally I felt like it was just me trying to heal a part of my inner child by being in that space, if that makes any sense. So after I kind of had that awakening of like, okay, this probably isn't my dream job, right? It was then after I went into the mental health field of working as a therapeutic behavioral coach for kids that had behavioral issues and working with parents. And then that's when I realized I love this. I love helping people in this way. My job was to serve kids, to work with kids, but it was interesting how I really focus on the parents, because that's the root of why kids quote unquote act up, right? It's not the bad kid. It's because of the parents. Sometimes they don't have the knowledge or the privilege to learn, especially within our community. I'm Mexican, and I think that we have a very stubborn, closed-minded type of way of raising our children, you know. And I would go in and the moms would complain to me like, ay, es que es bien chiqueado, no hace caso, es bien huevón. And I'm like, whoa, first of all, how do you expect the child to grow and evolve and listen to you if you're speaking to him in this way, right? So I don't think they like me very much, but I really was trying to help and have them see the bigger picture. And in the end, they como que sí entendían. But at first, it was really, really hard to get to them. And that is essentially when I realized I was getting paid like $16 an hour. And I had 2 degrees and I was experienced. And I think I did my job really well. And that's when I realized, you know what? I'm not getting paid what I deserve. You know, I want to live my life, yes, helping people, but I also deserve to be compensated for my work. So that's when I thought about like, okay, social media is like a cool thing to do right now. This was like 4 years ago. And that's when I thought about a business idea to do what I'm doing, but on my own, if that makes any sense. I work with not kids, but with women, right? So I kind of use my training that I had for my work into this new way of being and coaching my clients now. So that is kind of like a little rundown. I hope I answered your question. But
you did. Actually, I have plenty more to kind of go back into, but thank you for sharing that. Kind of going into when you said you had to go into foster, how many siblings do you have, and like were you the only one that had to go through that? Were you?
Yeah, so I have a total of 4 siblings. I'm the middle child. Well, I'm the second. My sister's the oldest, and then I have 2 little brothers. My sister and I were placed in the same home in Washington State, and I was placed in a home with a white lady or Caucasian. I don't know what term you want to use, but she was not Mexican, right? And that experience kind of feels like a movie to me, because it almost just doesn't feel real, because it happened so fast, but at the same time, it was like slow motion. And my sister and I were lucky enough to get placed together. However, my little brother, who was 2 at the time, he was placed in another home. And then the youngest one, who wasn't even born, my mom was actually pregnant. So that is kind of how that all went. And it was very, very challenging, but I was fortunate enough to live with my foster parents, and they had a big farm of probably like 20 acres, and they had horses. They had all types of animals. She had us go on hikes and camping trips. So definitely nature and horses were really helpful in that time for us because como que nos distraían un poco.
Yeah.
So that is that experience. Definitely very challenging, but I wouldn't be where I am today without that experience. And I know everyone says that, but it's so crazy how you just don't understand your life, especially as a child. And now as an adult, you're just like, wow, I really did have to go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I couldn't imagine to have to experience that, but also, I mean, I probably could imagine it was helpful to have like your sister there. Now, do you have any contact with your family today?
Yeah, I actually do, thankfully. I live with my tia and my tío and my grandma. My grandma is like I always say like my third mom. I have like three moms. My biological mom, my tia, and my grandma are the people who raised me. And I see my mom very often because she lives in Tijuana and I live in San Diego, which is like 15 minutes away. Um, my brothers also live still with my tia, and my sister lives with them as well. So we're all together now and we are very close. And I'm just grateful that we got the chance to reunite all together.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you were born in Washington, right?
Yeah. Olympia, Washington, to be exact.
Okay, and then your foster parents were there as well, right?
They were actually in Lakewood, or I mean,
Okay.
Lake Bay, Washington, which is in the middle of nowhere, honestly. It's about an hour away from Seattle or 30, 40 minutes away from Seattle. Um, and it is literally in the middle of nowhere where pine trees and like ponds, and it's really beautiful. It's just, I prefer the hot weather. I don't like.
So then I'm curious, you said you live in San Diego, so how'd you get to there?
Yeah. So my mom was back and forth from Washington State to Riverside, California. And my older sister was born in Riverside. So when I was going to be born, she moved back to Washington. And then after living in Washington for like 3 years, which I don't remember, we were in Riverside, actually less than 3 years, about probably like months is when I came back to Riverside, California. Then my mom moved back to Washington. And then that's when the situation happened. And then when my tia and my tío took custody of us, that's when I came back to Riverside. And then from Riverside at 17, I moved to San Diego for college. So I've been here since college, and I don't really plan on moving because I love it here so much.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Now, as a fellow Mexicana, I want to dive into some things that maybe we dive into as far as like our culture go around the topic of trauma and like healing and therapy. Mm-hmm. Like sort of like the misconceptions or even like the lack of awareness and how like boundaries are non-existent, I feel, because I feel like there's a lot of like quote unquote toxic, unhealthy things in our culture that we, see as like quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
What are some things that you have seen in your work?
As far as in with my clients?
Yeah, well, just like anyone really, I guess.
I mean, definitely boundaries. What you just mentioned is something that I've been seeing all around with my clients and within my family. And not only boundaries, but the lack of self-awareness that we have within our community. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad and I'm thankful that it's changing and it's evolving, but I just think we're really starting from scratch. And that's why it's so challenging to start this work now. It's truly because our parents never had the opportunity to do that. And you could see it by the type of relationships our parents were in. I mean, my mom was in a toxic relationship with my dad. He was not the greatest human to her. And yeah, he's at fault, right? And at the same time, our moms como que no tenían el valor de decir, sabes que I don't deserve this, actually. Mm-hmm. I deserve someone who treats me with respect, with kindness. And one thing that I've talked to my mom and my grandma about is why didn't you speak up? Like, I'm genuinely just wanting to know why. And their response was like, we just didn't know. Like, they grew up thinking that if you kissed the guy that you had to get married. That's what my tia said. Like, yo nomás me casé porque mi mamá me decía que si ya le doy un beso a alguien, ya no valgo nada. And I'm like, what? So that's why you got married? So to me, it's just mind blowing of how much one generation can evolve. And I really just use their experiences and I take it as, okay, yeah, I already grew past 30, past them, right? Not saying that I'm better, but I've evolved so much in such little time. But I use it as a motivator to say, hey, I don't want my kids or my kids' kids to see me as that. Like, I want them to learn and grow from my experiences. If that makes sense. I just really feel passionate about what I do. And it's not just because it's my work, but it's my life. It's my lifestyle. And it's not something that I just picked up this year. You know, I've been doing this my entire life due to my challenges that I had to overcome as a child. So yeah. I don't even know if I answered the question. But
yeah, you did. And I like how you brought that up too, about like you kind of talked to your mom and your grandma about it. Because sometimes I feel like we don't, always get that chance, or we don't do it. And it's really helpful to kind of just trying to understand more from their perspective. And then that's really helpful and healing to us as we kind of try through our journey.
Yeah. And then we get to understand why they did certain things, and you become more empathetic in their world because they didn't have education. They were in a rancho in a completely different world. They didn't have access to the things that we have access to. So it's easy to judge when we don't understand, right? Or understand what they're going through within themselves. So I think it's very important to ask people questions before we assume or create judgments about them.
Yeah. Now I'm curious too about what sorts of things, like wounds, did that your experience create? Like, would you say that, do you experience or have you experienced, feeling like angry, confused, did you feel abandoned? Did you, what kind of things would you say that some of your core wounds have been?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've experienced abandonment. The abandonment wound is really deep within. I don't want to attach myself to it, right? But it's something that I've struggled with for not a long time. Well, yeah, I would say a long time, my whole life. And also feeling in scarcity mode all the time with everything. I think being alert and like, oh, I have to do this, and hyper independence. I think that is due to my childhood and what kind of happened to me. It's, if I don't figure it out, then it's a problem, and you might not survive, right? This isn't literally, but that's what my inner child kind of feels in that moment. So it takes action from that place. And sometimes it doesn't feel too healthy all the time, so definitely abandonment and scarcity or anxious type of feelings all the time.
Yeah. Now, I know you mentioned like some of the things that helped you when you were, kind of like essentially growing up, was going to school. That was kind of like a tool for you. What would you say is some of the tools now that you use to kind of keep you grounded and to help with your healing journey, because I'm sure you still, it's like, it's always just going, it's like never ending. Exactly. So what would you say are the tools that you use now?
Yeah, it's honestly never ending. I think people assume that, oh, well, you're all better now. It's like, girl, this is a lifelong journey. It's always going to live with me. I can't erase it or delete it. Even till this day, when I talk about it, I feel some type of way. It takes me back to that moment, but I think what helps me is, besides reading and journaling and all of that, is seeking help. So talking to people that are like-minded, and dancing. Obviously, I think for me, dancing has just been a healing type of experience because you kind of just forget everything in a way and you just tune in into your body
Yeah.
and realize that there's a lot of joy in life. Like, yes, life can be really sad and we go through crazy things, but in the end, if you choose to see it in that way all the time, you're never going to see the beauty of what life really is. So I love traveling as well. So traveling, dancing, journaling, just creating content for people. I think that is what keeps me grounded and it keeps me happy
Mm-hmm.
about life because it is really beautiful, you know, but we can't see that if we're always stuck in the past or the what ifs and victim mentality and victim mode is something that I feel in our community is it's heavy, you know, it's deeply rooted in us in a way.
Yeah.
And I chose not to live that anymore. I don't want to victimize myself. So
Yeah, totally. And I love that for you. You like speaking about dancing. I know that you sometimes share it on your social media, which I love it. And I can relate to that a lot because I love dancing as well. But like you actually kind of inspire me. Well, not kind of, you actually inspire me to like want to do it more, to like maybe challenge myself to do it, you know, record myself as well. And I know you enjoy bachata and like
yes.
regional music, right?
Of course, yeah, banda. I think that's essentially how my love of dance started is listening to banda. And my dad was a dancer, you know, all his crazy stories that people tell me of how bad he was and not in like my mom telling me these stories and like, oh, you have to hate your dad. She never said that. I think she was sharing just her side of the story and she would always tell me that I have his personality. And I'd be like, how? Like, no, I don't. And I don't even know him, right? But she would just tell me that he was always very like he was just a people person. He was very charming. He would dance. He was always making jokes. He was smiling and he was just the life of the party, right? And I think that's kind of where my dancing connection stems from is from probably from my dad.
Oh, that's nice. I love that. That you can, you know, it's like he's not, you know, you can connect with him in that way.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely feel like starting dancing like banda has reconnected me back to him, even though I don't know him. But I have a very strong belief that we can still connect with our loved ones who have transitioned. And I always feel my loved ones. And yeah, I think I feel him most when I'm dancing.
Yeah, that's awesome. What other things do you enjoy that maybe like you don't post or like show on social media?
Great question. I feel like I'm just a talented, not even talented, I wouldn't even say that.
Passionate.
The word passionate and multiverse. I think I've heard people say multiverse or I don't know the term, but something like that, where I'm fascinated by a lot of things. I'm a very passionate person. So besides dance and travel, I really like documentaries. I think I just love learning. And once I get invested in something, I go full force. So definitely documentaries. I love
what kind?
Kind of all types of documentaries, pero me gustan the crime type of documentaries, but also just watching people from different countries. I don't know why I feel like called to learn about what's going on in the world and not just here in the States. And I just love thinking about, wow, my problems, yeah, they're still real, but I think it helps me ground myself and realize like there's so many other people going through similar experiences, so I'm not alone. I guess it's a connection that I like to feel.
Yeah, I can relate too. Now you said you like to travel, and I have noticed. I mean, I've been nosy on your. No, I'm just kidding.
And I've
on your Instagram.
did my FBI search.
So it seems like you like to go to Mexico a lot, right?
Yeah, actually, I love Mexico. I think sometimes I've even thought about just moving there, because it just feels like home. Even though people assume so many bad things about Mexico and this is and that, I feel like I was supposed to be there and live there and experience what it would be like to be in Mexico. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my parents are from there, but at the end of the day, I've experienced an American type of lifestyle. My mindset isn't like a Mexican girl from a rancho, right? I've developed a different type of mentality. So I think I
Mm-hmm.
just feel connected and at home, even though I never lived there.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. Where would you say is like some of your favorite places to go and visit?
I love the beach. I love the sun, the palm trees, seafood. So anywhere that has the beach, como Puerto Vallarta me encanta, Sayulita, Nayarit, all of those places are very much like home to me because I don't know, I just love tanning. I love the sun. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy those places by far.
Where, yeah, where's your parents from?
My mom is from Morelia, Michoacan. And then my dad was from Nayarit, Pericos, Nayarit. So it's a small little town outside of Tuxpan. So Nayarit.
Really? My dad's from 92.
Oh, really? What part?
Um, I'm not really sure. It's like a super small town. I think it's called El Puente, but I can't de Camotlan. But I couldn't even tell you like exactly like what
Mm,
is the closest.
city.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
have you visited?
I have. I visited once before, probably like 4 years ago now, something like that. So it was small. I mean, it was really nothing there, but I've been a
Yeah.
lot just like I've been to Sayulita and to
Oh, okay.
the all the beaches around there. So yeah, I really like it a lot.
Yeah, the little pueblos like where my dad's from, there's literally nothing either. And it's just such a small town. There's nothing to sightsee there, but outside of those pueblos, they have beautiful
Mhm.
beaches in Nayarit. So
Yes.
yeah,
I've noticed too, you have like really, really great content on your social media, like your pictures and everything, your videos. Um, do you have a photographer or do like how do you take your pictures?
thank you. That's funny. I actually also love photography. I feel like I'm a really good picture taker. I don't take
Yeah,
my
you are.
I don't take my own pictures, but my man is my photographer, even though he hates taking pictures. And I'm always like, no, you have to put the phone like this and you have to get this angle. So he's definitely the one that has been helping me record and
Oh,
just
that's really nice.
pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I don't have a photographer yet. But it would be nice and easy so I don't hear him like he doesn't complain, but you kind of just feel the vibe when someone's just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, yeah.
And I like to take a million pictures. So, and this was even before Instagram. I just always like pictures and videos. So,
Yeah. No, yeah, you well, I mean, you as like the person that's taking a picture, I mean, being photographed, you look awesome. And then also your boyfriend, he does a great job. And so
yeah,
make
I'll
sure
tell
you let him know. Yeah.
him. Thank you.
So what I guess keeps you motivated? Like how, what like when you wake up in the morning, what do you look forward to?
Honestly, sometimes it gets really challenging because sometimes I just feel like it would be easier to just have a job and really just feel secure and comfortable. But deep down inside in my heart, I have this feeling that I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And even though it
Yeah.
is challenging, I always have the mentality that one day I'm going to look back in this moment and just be so proud of myself. Even though I am proud of myself right now, it's just more of being in the journey and being happy with where I'm at and appreciating myself and valuing myself. I think that's what helps me just keep going, because sometimes you're not going to have motivation to get up and do the thing. Sometimes you're going to question, like, wait, why is it that I'm even doing this? Like, who cares, right? But
Mm-hmm.
getting up and realizing that I do have a purpose, and I found my purpose at a very early age, just inspires me to continue to do what I'm doing, because I'm a Virgo, so I love to have structure. I'm a very responsible person. I don't really like to take risks per se. So doing this, and
Mm-hmm.
I quit my job at, I think I was 23, 24. I think I was 24. Yeah. I quit my job, and I was just so certain about, I'm going to figure it out. But it's not really like me to do those types of decisions.
Yeah.
So I just know, it's like my knowing that I'm supposed to be here, and it is hard. I know sometimes people think that my life is just perfect and glamorous, but there's moments where I sit in my room, and I'm just like, okay, so what the hell am I doing with my life? And
Yeah.
is this even
Yeah.
gonna work? We all have those moments, but I think besides motivation, I just see the bigger picture, because it's not just for myself. I always tell the people who support me is, I'm doing this for all of us and not just myself, because I want to bring
Mm-hmm.
others with me. It's not just
Right.
me. It's, let's do this together. And I feel like that's part of my journey, and my purpose here is to contribute to that. So
Yeah. What would you say is your biggest challenge then with like, what you're doing now?
definitely just support. um I am not the type of person to ask for help or go out of my way. I mean, with therapists and yeah, like all that kind of stuff, yes, but I always feel like I need to figure out everything on my own, and I blame my childhood for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay not to be okay sometimes. um but definitely support is, I think, the biggest challenge. Like, I don't really, besides my boyfriend and my friends, my two friends that I have, it's hard to rely on, like, let's say my family, because I don't want to worry them or think that, oh my gosh, like make them worry about me. You know what I mean? So I think it's just like being silent and figuring things out, yes, but just the lack of support sometimes can be challenging.
When you say support, does that mean like encouragement or is that like towards, something more specific?
I think in all aspects, definitely encouragement, because sometimes my family doesn't really understand even what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't even think they think I work. Like, they're just, oh, she's probably, just mantenida. But I've never been a mantenida. I've always had my own things and my own job, and very independent. But I just feel like I don't need to explain myself. And they don't ever ask, because they know that I'm responsible. So they're like, oh, she's fine. But also just, I wish I had a team of people to help me. Like, I wish someone could I mean, I technically could hire someone or hire a couple people, but it's just like a whole process that I haven't necessarily thought about. And
Mm-hmm.
running a business, I also have a jewelry business that I have, and doing all that at once can be very overwhelming, especially if you don't have a solid team. So I think that's what I really struggle with, is finding time to do everything that I have to do. And yeah, just that would be part of support for sure.
Yeah. I'm also curious now that, you mentioned that about support.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, I'm curious about like who would be considered, well, first of all, I guess do you go to therapy? Have you been to therapy?
Yeah, I think I started at a very early age with therapy. Actually, not that early. I was really around my breakup. My first breakup is when I started digging deeper within myself and going seeking therapy and mentorships and all of that. So I definitely do use that still, and it is helpful. But it is like it's only handling the emotional and the spiritual aspect of me and not the financial part of what it is to run a business. And
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship isn't as glamorous as people think it is, because it's it's kind of like not a mind game, but you have to really challenge your mindset and your beliefs in order to really make it possible for you to succeed in what you're doing. So it's a challenge, like I said, when you didn't learn any of anything growing up about business, and now you trying to do it. Does that make sense? It's kind of like
Yeah.
you feel lost in what the hell am I doing? Like, how do I do
Yeah.
this? Or feeling panicked about, I don't understand this, right? Especially with taxes and all of that. It's not just, oh, here's my W-9, here you go, and that's it. It's there's so much behind the scenes of what people don't know about entrepreneurship, and it's honestly very hard, to be
Yeah.
honest. It's very, very hard. And again, I just know that I'm just not the type to work a 9 to 5 anymore, especially now being, an entrepreneur for this long. I just feel like my role, my calling is to be a business owner. And
Yeah.
so I have to start from scratch, and I have to make a lot of mistakes, and I've been there, and it is scary because como que no sabes how to kind of move forward, 'cause, yeah.
Yeah.
Fin-
And yeah, that I know exactly what you mean because I experienced some of that as well when I was trying to do something like that in the past. So actually, have you thought about or have you, I guess, hired like other like a mentor, like a coach or some type of like course program that, maybe to help you with that?
Yeah, I did hire a mentor that did my website for my business, and she was really helpful with everything. I'm not a business, I mean, what's it called? Tech savvy type of person. All of that
Yeah.
kind of stresses me out. I'm
Yeah.
more the
Same.
creative outlet type of person. When you talk about money and taxes and X, Y, and Z, my brain kind of just shuts down. And I
Mhm.
notice it. I notice when I talk about that kind of stuff with anybody, I start shutting down. And I don't want to, because I want to learn about these things, but it's
Right.
definitely something that
Overwhelming,
yeah,
probably.
I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily good at. And I have to be okay with accepting, like, yeah, I have to be knowledgeable, but I don't have to be good at that. Like, that's just not what I'm not gonna sit here and learn about how to do my own taxes. There's people that do
Totally.
that, for a living. So I think it's just me also wanting to know everything and then feeling like I don't. So it makes me panic even more, because I'm like, I should know that. But it's like, no, you shouldn't. Nobody ever taught you this. Nobody in your family owns a business. What do you expect? I'm really
Yeah.
starting like ground zero when it
Yeah.
comes to this.
I have experienced the same thing, so I know exactly what you mean. And
Yeah.
it's crazy to hear somebody else kind of like verbalize it as well, because I don't think I've come across that. So
Yeah. I think,
that's actually very validating to me to hear.
wow, thank you for sharing that. I think it's just crazy how a lot of people don't share what they're really going through sometimes. And when
Mhm.
you hear them say that, you're like, wow, me too. I don't feel alone. Our pain and our struggles connect us as humans. And that's why I feel like I love your content, because you're very expressive, you're very vulnerable, and that's exactly what we need to freaking move on and evolve as humans. It's so exciting to see people post that type of content, and I always root for those people, because there's enough of everything else already. Like, we need to progress our type of content to be mainstream, right? And sometimes it can get frustrating, and I think I've heard you talk
Mhm.
about this before. It's challenging when you want to put out a message and nobody necessarily supports it or likes your stuff. Like, I've been in that situation too, where I would post about dancing, a million likes, being sarcastic, right? And
Mhm.
then I talk about healing and being, out of your victim mentality, 2 likes, 2 people. Now I'm like, okay, I guess they don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed a shift. I was almost to 80,000 followers on my Instagram. And most of it was due to dancing. Like one video I posted got me like 9,000 followers in one day. And as soon as I started making that brand shift to me talking about, healing and all of that, a lot of people unfollowed me. I think I'm down to like 60,000 followers. And
Wow.
at first I was like, wait, why? But I had to really leave out the people that don't resonate with my message. And that's okay. So learning to be okay with not having the support that I expected. Right. And I always just think everyone's on their time. Sometimes in this lifetime, maybe they're not meant to experience that type of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being judgmental towards them, I'm just empathetic, like, okay, this is my time to show up as fully as myself and allow others to do whatever they want in their life. But I wouldn't lie to you and say that it doesn't get to me sometimes. I'm like, well, how come this person could talk about the dumbest things?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not saying that there's no value in it, but I feel like I provide a lot of value and I'm not even half of where they're at. And that's the comparison, the scarcity mindset that kicks in. But I would
Mm-hmm.
be lying saying that I don't think that sometimes. And I mean, maybe you can relate a little bit to that as well.
I definitely can. And thank you for the compliment as well.
Mhm.
So talk to me a little bit more about your mentorship program, and what would someone essentially expect if they were like, hey, I want to work with you?
Yeah. So for now, I have a one-on-one type of mentorship program. I'm actually working with creating a group session that's going to come out probably in November. But the one-on-one mentorship is for women who are ready to really step into who they truly are, into their authentic self, and really explore other areas of themselves. My role, I always make this clear, is to be a mentor to you and not a therapist. I always make it clear in my calls. I'm like, okay, I am a mentor slash coach. I am not your therapist. That is not my role. My
Mm-hmm.
role is to really serve as a mirror. My role is to empower you to see your own power, to really bring those things out of you and utilize these things so you can move forward in your journey. And that's essentially what I do. I ask questions. I don't give advice. I don't tell you what to do. I'm simply a guide in your journey. And I have journal prompts for clients, personalized journal prompts after each session. I provide those for my clients. I also have book recommendations that I give. And these books are all books that I've read myself. I won't ever recommend something I've never done for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just personalized. And that's why I call them before accepting, because I kind of want to know where they're at and to see if it's a good fit. I've had to refer some people out to actual therapists and say, hey, you know what? I feel like this might benefit you more because my program doesn't necessarily focus on so much of the trauma as a child, and some people have never been to therapy. So for them, it's scary, but I don't want to waste people's time or money, for sure.
Yeah. Would you say that majority of your clients are also Latinas?
Yeah, actually 98% of them are Mexican American. I've had some people from El Salvador, I've had Puerto Ricans, I've had like a couple, but 98.9 are Mexican American. So they really feel connected to me and I feel connected to them. I always tell them that I see myself in each and every single one of my clients because we've experienced a lot of similarities growing up, the way we were raised. It's our culture. So I think that helps when someone like you is guiding you through this process and not just this person that has no idea about what your culture is, or they've never experienced it for themselves, if that makes sense. So that's why I think my work is transformational not just because of, you know, what I've learned in my coaching sessions and in my certification program, but also just because of I experienced it in real life. You know, I'm not coming from a privileged family, right? I had
Mhm.
to go through a lot of challenges as a child to really choose to live the way that I'm living now.
Yeah. That's awesome. And something else that stood out to me too when, when you were talking about it, and it's something that I struggle with. So, I'm always here too to kind of gain any type of tips. And how has like friendships looked for you and like, your circle of, I guess, support?
Hmm. I mean, I think for me, I've always been introverted slash extroverted. Like people assume that I'm very extroverted, that I just get along with everyone and I'm just super out there, but I'm really not. I'm actually very to myself, and I like being by myself. I just really enjoy my own company, and I probably blame my childhood for that as well. But for me, I've had to let go of people in my past. You know, when I was in high school, I feel that those people no longer resonated with what I'm pursuing now in my life. And it's not to say that they're not valuable or they didn't essentially contribute to my growth, but it was more of sometimes people are only here for seasons, and it's okay to move on and find people that can meet your needs in friendships. And that was very challenging for me because I'm a very loyal person. I'm a Virgo again. I'm a very loyal person, and I feel
Mhm.
that I was really down for my people, my friends, my family. If I really love you and open up to you, like I will really be committed to you. So I think for me, it was really hard to understand that concept because part of me was like, okay, you're growing this way and these people are growing that way, and you don't feel like your needs are being fulfilled. It is okay to let go and attract other people into your life. So in that moment, that, you know, obviously that was very painful for me. But now that I'm in this stage of my life, I'm attracting people who are on the same path as me. And it feels so good knowing that people think like you know, it's a match type of thing. You don't have to
Mhm.
force a relationship or force people to understand what the hell you're doing with your life. And I think I'm just to the point where I love myself so much that I'm willing to lose anybody who doesn't respect me or value me or see me, you know, as who I really am. So that's what healing does. It will do that to you. So
Yeah.
that's been my experience with friendships.
That's great that you're just recognizing that and reaching for those people. And yeah, that's really good. um what are some other things that you have going on or like goals that you'd like to reach?
Hmm. In my mind, I'm a manifesting generator, which is like my human design. And I'm constantly thinking of ideas. I'm very creative. The issue with me is that sometimes I don't follow through. And it's hard for me to kind of organize my thoughts and focus on one thing. 'Cause I believe I do also have ADHD, which I feel like that kind of is a challenge for me in everyday tasks because I'm already thinking 30 steps ahead when I haven't even solidified that first step.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely want to write a children's book. My sister is an artist, so I would want her to work on the illustrations, and then I would work on obviously the concept and the theme of the book. And the reason why I want to work on a children's book is because I want kids to read about concepts like boundaries, about loving who they are, about loving their skin at a very early age, you know, and I think that's going to set the tone for the next generation of kids that are evolving into adults. So that's kind of like getting into the root of our issues in our community, and
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm very excited about. So besides the book, I also want to do in-person seminars, um, and do them all across the country because I have supporters from New York and New Jersey, Texas. So I just kind of want to tour around and not necessarily do a meet and greet because I'm sure you know what that is when people just go and meet you and take a picture with you. I
Mhm.
I really just don't find value in that. I want people to leave with something at the end of the day, you know? So I would want to create like a seminar where we're talking about topics like these and bring on people that do the same type of work and where we
Mhm.
all just talk and really get to know who we are and how we can be better supported within our community. So that's something I have in store for me. And also my podcast. I feel like I've always wanted to create a podcast, but it's been a journey in itself trying to do everything and then just say, okay, I'm gonna do this and don't be scared of trying new things and you're just gonna do it, you know? So that's something that I'm also doing right now in this time, working on that.
Okay, so oh my God, we are like the same person because I also want to write books, or well,
Really?
not just write books, but also have a plan to like, want to write a children's book with
What?
this the
Really?
same concept as you is like, because I feel the same exact way, and I would love to, add value to like
Yeah,
emotions and teaching, that sort of thing. And seminars, like I also do the same thing. So it's so crazy
that's
that you
great.
say that. And obviously we could relate with the podcast. I did not know that you are starting with the podcast. So
Yes.
that's awesome.
Yeah, I actually have the name. Well, I had the name, and now that I've seen that someone has like three other people have the same name, I was like, never mind, I have to think of something else. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's I've had the mic for over 3 years, and I always told myself, oh yeah, I'm gonna get to it. And I never got to it. Now I'm here and I'm like, okay, I kind of have to do it. It's part of what I know I'm supposed to do. But like I said, it's a challenge to do everything at the same time.
Hmm.
Now I'm adding this new thing. But I think it's just about time management. I feel like I can do a lot of things, right? I think it's just focusing on time management. Like, okay, you did this, you worked out in the morning, and now you have to don't get distracted with your phone and do the next thing on your agenda. So it is possible. Sometimes we think that things are just impossible, like, oh my god, I can't do that, but we can. It's truly about time management
Yeah.
and the schedule, right? So
Mhm.
me voy a aventar a ver qué pasa.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So then you are just starting off your podcast. We haven't actually started then, right? Like you're just kind of
No,
going through.
I'm just starting I'm writing the bio right now. I have all the content that I'm going to talk about. Now I'm just kind of searching for the name, and then I want to hire a photographer to take some pictures, and my friend's kind of helping me out with how to upload 'cause I'm not, like I said, I'm not tech savvy. So that
Yeah,
stuff.
I had to do a lot of research to figure it out. So yeah, I hear you. That's
Yeah,
that's awesome. And I'm really proud of you for starting that. And I definitely do think that, you can do it. And just like you said, time management. That's what I do too. So
for sure. Thank you.
yeah. Now you also said you have a jewelry line too.
Yeah. Um, so I started this a couple years ago, and like I said, I didn't know where to start or what would be the best idea. So I started as an LLC, and there's so many fees to an LLC, and there's so many fees when you're starting a business that, like an e-commerce business, right? You have to pay taxes for California and then pay taxes for San Diego and pay IRS. So it's just so much information that I kind of took a pause on that.
Hmm.
And I'm focusing on saving up more money so that I can reinvest. But I would be selling gold, like rings and opal, like fire opal from Mexico. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I already created some pieces that I'm just so excited about. But again, I'm just kind of waiting for the resources to come in and for me to fully invest more time and money into that project because it is
Hmm.
expensive.
Yeah, I hear you. That's really, really good. So I guess, is there any other things that you'd like to, mention about whether it's, something that you're doing, upcoming, or I don't know, something that you really feel passionate about sharing that maybe we haven't touched based on?
I would just say that it's always important to follow your intuition and never dim yourself. Don't dim your light to make other people feel comfortable, because for so long that's how I was feeling. I felt like, well, who am I to do that? Or who's gonna care?
Mm-hmm.
Who's gonna listen? That voice that pops up in our head. I think more of us need to step into our truth and our knowing and leave the judgment and the what ifs behind and just do it, because we literally have one life to live. And sometimes we think that, oh, well, I'll just do it 5 years from now, when we don't really know if we're going to be here 5 years from now. And I think my dad passed away when he was 24 or 23. And every day I think about, like, I genuinely don't know if I'm going to be gone tomorrow. And I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but it's the truth. Like, live your life as if tomorrow wasn't planned. And when you think about it from that perspective, you're going to say, honestly, who cares if people talk about me? Who cares if they judge me? And who cares if X, Y, and Z, right? That's my mentality now, where I really am fulfilling my life. And I don't really care if anybody agrees with me or not anymore. Whereas before, I would be people pleasing. I would feel rejected a lot of the times when people didn't understand me. Now I'm just so in my truth and in my knowing that I know deep down inside I'm happy and I'm healthy. And that's really all that matters.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so, this is all really important work that you are doing. So I wanted to, again, thank you and encourage you as you continue to do, your own work, and yet you still show up for others.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing your story makes me really proud as a fellow Latina and as a woman, and just to know how much resiliency you have, and I'm happy that your soul took you in the perfect direction, and then you keep following that soul. So Janitzza, thank you for being a guest, and I have had a really good time.
Thank you, Vanessa. I appreciate what you do as well, and I'm proud of you, and continue being who you are, because we need more people like you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome.